like, you almost kind of like have a beat going, so that's why you see some kids like tapping their foot. So it's rare. I have had it happen, especially at the later tournaments of the year. You'll see some kids start trying to get to that level. They don't go that fast, but it's a thing that can happen to you. I want you to be well informed. So speed reading, be prepared. Oh my gosh, it was working right back there. I'll just grab my computer. Okay, so the next thing is for like trying to make the decision, right? Because like I've told you, there's good and bad with everything. So, hello, too many cats. Okay. So if you do policy debate, you start with like 3 weeks of reading, like straight up, because there's a lot that's already done for you if you do policy. And I want to show you though, so that you know what you're getting into if you choose to do policy. This is a real example of a policy debate speech. Everyone take 10 seconds, start at the top there, and try and read in your brain, try and read what's there. Okay, so the reason I'm having you do this is because if you choose to do policy, you read hundreds, literally hundreds of pages that look like this. There is a way of reading them that I'll teach the policy kids that makes it easier, but if you're really confused and really bored, this is a lot of policy. So you have been warned, okay? The next thing, so I'm going to tell you the tough stuff about policy and then the great stuff, and then we're almost done, just so you know, and then we're going to move on to Lincoln Douglas. So I already told you guys, it is straight up double the amount of work as the other types of speech and debate, so don't do it unless you're willing to work hard. Usually policy kids have a significant amount of homework if they want to win. You can do policy and not do homework and then, not care about winning. But if you really want to be one of those kids who are like getting first place, which is really fun, it usually involves you're doing extra research at home. And it usually, not always, but usually takes kids more than 1 year to get successful. So if you are like chomping at the bit to get a trophy, which is so fun, and you want that to happen sooner, policy takes a while because there's so many pieces of policy that I have to teach you. It just takes a while to get good at it. So sometimes partnerships straight up fail, and that is, Ryan, that is something that you have to think about because I've had kids who partner up that are best friends, and then by the end of policy aren't even friends at all anymore, and that's always really sad. And it's because you will butt heads sometimes. If you do policy, you'll have moments where you are disagreeing, and you have to figure out how to figure out those disagreements without it ending your friendship. And some kids, that hasn't worked. I haven't had it happen in a couple of years, thankfully, but it is a possibility. I also have had it happen where one partner is like dragging the other partner through the mud, metaphorically, that they're doing all the work, and it's way harder than they realize because it's not only hard anyways, but then the partner isn't pulling their weight. So that's also something to consider. And then the last thing to consider with partnerships is I've had it happen where somebody gave up like 3 or 4 weeks in. It actually happened last year. That one girl, she didn't listen to me when I told her it was really hard and chose to do it anyways because she just wanted to work with her friend, and then was like, whoa, I really don't like this. This is actually hard, and gave up, and then her friend had to figure out how to do it all on her own, which was very tough. She did it, but it was really tough. So sometimes we have so few policy teams that you have to do practice debates with the same people over and over and over and over. Usually in one class, I'll have maybe 2 or 3 policy teams, which means you're just constantly debating the same kids. That can get boring, so something to think about. Usually we have a lot more Lincoln Douglas and a lot more of the other types, and so it's you get some like new fresh blood. If you do policy, you can't say anything without having research to back it up, like straight up. You'll get destroyed if you don't have the research. So there's so much extra you have to be prepared for. And that's where it's so research heavy. And yes, there's a lot that's already done for you, but the downside of that, everyone in the state of Utah has the exact same stuff that you have access to. So they might be really strategic and might think ahead and already be ready to destroy you because they have access to the same stuff. So the tough stuff part 2, I already showed you, you're going to be reading an insane amount of high school level speeches and research. And like I told you, you have to have research for everything you say, and that's tough. Another tough thing, I only have taught you the bare basics of policy. And there's like 20 more lessons we have to have, some of them after school practice, before you even know like the basics that you need for the first tournament. So like we're working all the way up until like November 6th trying to learn all those last pieces, and it's a lot to put together. So like if you're the kind of kid who's absent a lot, you also aren't going to want to do policy because you're going to miss a lot of really important stuff. Also, the entire Indian Hills team, like almost their entire team, does policy, which means they have more brains working on the same thing. And there's good and bad about that. The bad thing about that, their speeches become really easy for us to attack because we will be like, okay, what's the Indian Hills team running for this speech? And then we're already really prepared for the next one. But the downside of that is they do have more support with people they can do practice debates again. This is also, I think, a really important consideration. So I'm a policy expert, like for real, hands down. I've done policy for 14 years. But the topic changes every single year. So I have to learn the topic every single year. So as far as helping you with actual policy debate strategy, I got your back. But when it comes to learning about the Arctic and Arctic exploration, I'm not an expert. You will probably ask me questions where I'm like, I don't know. You have to go figure it out. And that's not normal. In other classes, the teacher knows all the answers. But debate is different because the topic changes every time. So if you're like not willing to have to struggle sometimes, don't do policy. Okay, so good things. There really are great things about policy debate. I really have had kids in the past who like it becomes their whole life. They love it so much that they just want to do it as much as humanly possible. And that's a really, really, really true thing. Like some of the kids who showed up at after school practice last year, like they got into a fight. Like the policy and LD kids, they're so passionate about it, right? Like it was like fists were about to start flying because they care so much. They love it. They want other people to love it, even though it's really hard. So they were trying to convince people, you should do policy, you should do LD, and then they were really getting into it. So a good thing about it, it's the most brag-worthy of it, hands down, because it's the hardest. If you win, it's also the most like impressive that you won. There are pre-written speeches, but you have to understand them. There's no memorization. You can read from your speech. It's a cool challenge. Like if you're the kind of kid who you're bored all the time in school because you're not being challenged, you might want to do policy because you will finally be challenged. There's probably C and D.
Interruption. We're ready for the next group of 7th grade students for hearing screening.
Last name.
Last name C through F.
Oh, C through F.
Great.
Okay, so another good thing, there's tons and tons of resources because people across the country, high schoolers and middle schoolers, do policy. And there's a website where people just straight up share their stuff with each other. So there's a lot of resources. The trophies are physically bigger in policy because it's harder. So in extemp and oratory, the trophy is a medal that you wear around your neck. You can wait for just 1 second if you want. And in policy, it's a physical trophy. So it's because it's harder. You get a support from your partner if you picked really well. And it happens, I would say, about 50% of the time that one partner is doing way more work than the other partner. So if you pick well, you can get support from your partner. This is braggy, but it's for a reason. So I have taught policy for a really, really, really long time. We have been very, very, very successful in like the past 6 or so years. We're one of the best policy teams in the whole state. So at the state tournament, which happens in May, I have had 4 different teams. So this means 8 different kids. I've had 4 different teams win first place because they actually listened to me. They actually worked really hard and they got first place. And when you win first place in policy, you and your partner get a first place trophy because you did it all together. It's also a cool thing because if you win in policy, you will feel like $1 million. It feels amazing. You get to be so proud of yourself, and it just feels good to win in policy because you work so hard, and seeing it pay off is a really, really cool thing. Yeah. So it's going to happen. And I love that you asked that because, guys, there are winners and losers in debate. So only 10% of you will win. That means 90% of you are going to lose. So you have to just start accepting that. But even if you lose, you're going to leave my class with so many good real life skills. Okay, so the answer on who should do policy debate is anyone who's willing to work really, really, really hard. I've had kids who are like, I'm going to do policy because I take all honors classes and I got all 4s on the end of the year tests. And I usually, like, school is really easy for me. And sometimes those kids don't do well in policy because they're a little bit lazy. And so I've also had kids who kind of struggle sometimes, like maybe they're getting C's and D's and they aren't testing very well, but they choose to do policy. And I've had lots of those kinds of students do very well because they work really hard. It comes down to you and your attitude. So, I already mentioned this yesterday, but for real, and I already have to say no to some of you, because if you weren't at after-school practice yesterday, I told you that was the rule. If you want to do policy, you have to come to every single after-school practice on Mondays until we finish the first tournament. After the first tournament on November 6th, then there's more wiggle room with after-school practice, but there's just too much to do, and if you miss after-school practice, you miss skills. So you straight up, it's one of the questions I'll ask you, because you have to prove to me that you're capable of handling policy. No one gets to do it without getting my approval, and you have to prove to me that you can actually come to after-school practice every single Monday. So we're going to watch a tiny bit of this policy example. We're not going to watch the whole thing, but just so you get a feel, because you shouldn't pick a type of debate if you've never seen what it looks like. Yes?
Stimulate the economy.
Mm-hmm.
Are both partners like speaking at the same time? Or
Nope.
Like, up and
One will stand up while the other one's doing stuff. The other one will stand up while the other one's doing stuff. But you work together constantly, yeah. Now, these kids, because they're at the national tournament, they're not going to speak super crazy fast because it's actually not a very good strategy, right? No one can understand it when you talk that fast. I never recommend kids do that strategy. It's not good. So this is going to be, like, pretty understandable, but these kids are at the final round at the national tournament. It's a big deal.
In today's debate round. I have a few congratulations and thank yous. I'd like to. I think I speak for both Sarah and myself.
They always thank people at the national tournament.
Right. Kansas debate.
We don't do that at normal
really
tournaments.
be thankful that they can put this tournament on for American Progress accessed online.
Okay.
Observation 1 is inherency. America faces a crisis. Specifically, at-risk youth who are the most in need of summer opportunities currently lack access to support. From Shirley Sagawa, visiting fellow at the...
So this is an old topic. This is not this year's topic. Notice how this is pre-written. He wrote all this before the tournament and is just reading off his speech, which is totally allowed.
Center for American Progress and a national expert on child and youth policy from 2 days ago, titled Summer of Service, a new rite of passage for young teens, Center for American Progress accessed online. In the 15 years since its enactment, National Service has grown from a demonstration program to a large-scale system engaging more than 75,000 Americans. Unfortunately, research shows that young people who need this sort of experience most are the least likely to be engaged. Disadvantaged teens are far less likely to volunteer than their peers from more advanced backgrounds.
In my opinion, the best part of any debate is cross-examination, because that's the part where you have to do the most on-your-feet thinking. Bodhi, stop. So let's skip ahead so that you can see after he reads his speech, one of his opponents is going to stand up and start attacking him, and he has to try and defend himself on the spot. He doesn't know how he's going to get attacked.
In many communities, offering the older youth are limited in price steps and make summer a time of particular peril. Thank you, and now open for cross-examination.
So they stop a timer, the other person stands up. Their partners are ignoring what's happening. Their
That's
partners
the
are
one.
starting to prep their next speech.
Okay, my first question is, the plan would apply to individuals that have graduated from the 8th grade and are then moving into high school, correct?
Correct.
Primarily?
They're middle school.
So those, I don't know about you, but I definitely was not thinking about getting a college scholarship right after I got out of middle school. So why would these kids be thinking about the economic motivation that would be necessary?
Well, our Sagawa evidence is empirical on this study. It's not only the economic
That's a great
motivation,
debater right there.
but
Because as soon as somebody attacks you, if you respond with evidence, you are way more likely to win.
it's also the fact that it is a parent pressure in this issue.
Well,
Since
so
the kids aren't
if
doing anything
kids
in
are
the
just
summer,
being
parents can push them
pressured.
into it.
Wait, so kids aren't doing anything in the summer? These kids, when they're 8th graders going into 9th grade, have nothing better to do in the summer months than serve individuals?
Well, your argument
this
is assuming
obviously
a
a
middle
summer
school-
of time in which, for example, kids could play baseball, kids could enjoy long summer days. Any episode of the
We're gonna
one.
skip ahead. We're gonna watch a tiny bit of the next speech.
the thesis. In order to be topical and throughout my, I like to thank the National Forensic this year, and have really made my last. All right, is everyone ready?
Okay, and that's normal. You ask if the judge is ready, if your opponents are ready.
First off is topicality. A, the thesis. In order to be topical, an affirmative must substantially increase the number of persons serving in AmeriCorps. We have definitional support.
So
First,
what's happening right now, sometimes policy comes down to a war of definitions. Like who was understanding the words in the topic more correctly.
an increase refers to a process, not an outcome. The plan